Okay, everybody, I'm so fired up for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on our launch webinar today. Let's get right into it here. Looks like my sound and everything is working well. All right, so here we are. And I wanted to just let you know that I very much value your time. And the fact that you chose to join another webinar today means a tremendous amount to me. So please know that I'm just going to give you everything that I have over the next hour to teach you exactly what I think will be a great purview into what we're launching in the Multi-Channel Marketing Academy, and also just give you some great teaching and training, some great information on consumer behavior, and hopefully just give you a really strong jumping off point for modernizing your marketing. Okay, I'm super excited to be here. I guess I have to say, with all the uncertainty that we have right now, one thing is definitely clear, and that is our target shopper, our consumer, is continuing to evolve at a rapid pace. I've been doing a lot of webinars over the past 2 months, which I've just so enjoyed doing, and gotten to know so many great new people doing that. But one thing I've seen is every single week, I'm providing different information on consumer behaviors, and also, looking at the first quarter financial reports that came out. One of those framed one of the webinars I did for SIA Town Hall recently, and it was interesting because even the analyst who had pulled together the information on Target's first quarter financials was basically saying the same thing. Every single week, things change with consumers. So this is going to be a really great current, wealth of information for you today. And everything we do at Verde and Channel Mastery is targeting specialty brands. So keep that in mind. We are here to evolve, and that is basically what our MO is today. Okay, so I wanted to start by just letting you know a little bit about who Verde is. Some of you on this webinar might know us. We're turning 20 years in 2021. I can't believe that. We have an amazing roster of specialty brand clients, and we help them with visibility, brand positioning, go-to-market strategies, targeted engagement campaigns, multi-channel, and omni-channel, kind of interchangeable depending on the specialist you're asking, marketing, communications, and digital strategies. Okay, sorry, I just got a little heads up from one of my team members here. All right, and I also wanted to just share a little bit about the Channel Mastery podcast as well. Wait, before I do that though, let me just go back to Verde for a second. I haven't introduced myself. So my name is Kristin Carpenter, and I'm the founder and CEO of Verde Brand Communications and also the host of the Channel Mastery podcast. Prior to founding Verde, I was a journalist in our markets for 11 years, and I had the privilege of writing for a number of business publications, trade publications, and always a consumer publication, always. And I loved being a journalist. I was a journalist during the golden era of journalism, where you would pitch a story and the next thing you know, you were on a plane to Austria to go to the Gore-Tex factory. And it was just an amazing time. I feel so blessed that so many of the journalists that I worked with at that time are still in the markets and communities that we're in. It's been an incredible family to grow up around. But what I'm really extremely proud about is my team at Verde. We have just an incredible team at Verde. I'm so proud of them, so proud to work alongside of them. And the work that we're doing right now is making such a positive impact on our specialty brand clients during this incredibly trying time. We just basically cannonballed into the deep end with our clients, and we are figuring it out and creating solutions and being nimble along the way. And that's how we're getting it done. Super excited to share more with you about that. And then we also created the Channel Mastery podcast 3 years ago. So the podcast is near and dear to my heart. Back when we were reading all about the retail apocalypse, you remember that, probably 3 years ago and even more 2 years ago, our clients in the specialty markets, whether they were direct first brands or wholesale legacy brands, were in kind of a world of hurt. They really just were having a difficult time as retail was evolving so much at that time. And the more that we looked for resources to help our clients, the more we realized that those resources did not exist for specialty. I love to say in the specialty markets that we are special snowflakes here. And what I mean by that is that we are incredibly relationship driven. We lead brands that literally anchor people's identities. We help them have the best times in their lives and create the best memories in their lives. And that's very different than a large consumer packaged good company that makes paper towels, etc. Like, we are definitely the opposite of commodity, driven by story, and really big emotional connection can be made between a specialty brand and a consumer. We're going to talk a lot about that today because that's ultimately one of the things that's shifting and changing right now. But we created this solution for our clients and then turned it into a podcast. And then I'm also very proud to say that in the pandemic, we also, we pivoted Channel Mastery and we started to create more content through Channel Mastery and also on the verdepr.com blog. We couldn't make PPE or personal protective equipment, but we could make content to help people. And that is essentially what we did. And we doubled down. We started to create twice or three times as much content as we did before the pandemic. And I'm really happy that we did. It's really made Channel Mastery evolve, and we're about to relaunch a brand new season, which I'm very excited about. But I just wanted to say kind of the thing that ties all of this together back to me and back to my team at Verde is, as a brand communications agency, Verde thrives on change. Channel Mastery was built to guide specialty brands through change. And with the Academy, which you're here to learn about today, we've built a go-to resource that actually takes brand leaders through the change of COVID-19 and the recession. We are literally going to be going through that together, tailoring the plan that's offered in the Academy for each participant and enabling the evolution to happen at these brands during a critical time. So just super excited about that. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And I am, I guess, the teacher of the Multi-Channel Marketing Academy, but please know my incredible team of 22 people at Verde have definitely informed this process and have hand-built our reputation over almost 20 years in these amazing specialty markets that we serve. So Channel Mastery and Verde Brand Communications have come together to create the Multi-Channel Marketing Academy. And it is a 2-month immersive online learning experience. And it has 7 modules of content that are dispersed over 8 weeks. So there's 1 week off, and we'll have weekly live Q&As, special guests, etc. I'm going to get into all of the details toward the end of our presentation today. So I hope that you'll stay with me till the end, because I'm promising that I'll pack a ton of training into today, but then we also have some great announcements at the end. I also just wanted to ask, I would love to have you silence your phones and give me your full attention here today. I've really put a ton into this training and into the Academy with my team, and we have so much to share with you today. So I'm hoping that you could do that. And then also make sure that you stay till the end, because not only am I going to give you a ton of training in the next hour, but we're also going to be announcing the winners of the Multi-Channel Marketing Academy drawing. So 5 lucky winners will be announced at the end today, which I'm super excited about. All right. So you'll have to stick around for that. So welcome to your future, everybody. Let's drop right in and get to the training. COVID-19 and the recession have most certainly moved our cheese in a huge way. I think a lot of you are here today because you know your target shopper is different than pre-COVID. Captain Obvious, right? And you're also hoping to understand or start to understand and put a new way forward together. And I want to welcome you. There are others who are here because you've been trying to create change within your organization unsuccessfully for quite a long time. And we so get you, and we welcome you as well. Either way, COVID-19 and the recession have most certainly moved our cheese in a big way. And I have to say, even though it's very obvious, it's important to frame our conversation today. What got us to the point pre-COVID-19 and pre-recession is so not going to get us to the next level. It is not going to be what carries us through COVID-19 and beyond it. It is most certainly not going to be anything that elevates what we're doing. So I just think it's important to note, things are not going to go back to the way they were. And I think there are good things to that and obvious challenges to that. I personally like to gravitate to the positive as much as I can. And I think that that's what we're going to be focusing on here today, because for the brand leaders who do a lot of the work right now to ready your brand and your organization to get through this trying time, there will be great gains to be made when people do start to transact again. So things are not going to go back to normal. We know change needs to happen. And you know what that means to me? That means it's hunting season. What are we going to hunt? Sacred cows. And what I mean is this: for the first time in my professional career, which is almost 30 years in these amazing communities, every single person involved in going from concept to consumer product launches is being forced to change within our organizations and also our stakeholders outside of our organizations. And to me, that means it's open season and we get to actually take down some obstacles or sacred cows. Okay, so we're going to take down some sacred cows within our organizations so that we can become nimble and establish new approaches, which will enable us to change and evolve our organizations. And that's super important as specialty brands, because ultimately our consumer has to be the focal point. So sacred cows in our organizations pre-COVID would comprise processes, systems, and approaches in existence because it's the way things have always been done, right? And for legacy wholesale brands, which we have had a lot of those over our years on our roster, the sacred cows protect legacy distribution, okay? And for direct first brands, which we've also had the pleasure of having a lot of those on our roster, there are sacred cows around digital audience growth and also digital activations. Sacred cows are found in budget line items lurking around, and this is open season. Super exciting. All of this gets to change because it has to. We're in the middle of change. There's nothing we can do. The train has left the station. And as brand leaders, we are the chosen ones. We are the chosen ones. We are here to advocate for the new hero. We're going to take down the sacred cows and we're going to put the consumer or shopper on the pedestal to be the hero today. Unequivocally, that is our focus. And the Academy is all about changing the focus of sales and marketing from sacred cows, the point of distribution, to the consumer or shopper. And we're going to explore all of that today. I'm going to share one of the 7 steps in the Academy, and we're going to shift from what it's like to go to market to going to the consumer, which is very, very exciting. Sorry about the barking dogs. So bear with me for a second. Can you imagine going from twice a year or once a year product launches, like we've seen in the outdoor active lifestyle markets, to an ongoing cadence of consumer launches? That's what I want you to imagine with me today. I'd like to have you imagine new systems and processes that exist to make you nimble and agile, that enable you to adjust to future consumer behavior change, because it is going to happen. I really don't think the cadence of change is going slow at this point. And we have to be ready for that. So what the Academy was created to do, and with COVID-19 and the recession, is provide a blueprint that is more critical than ever to have, that it will enable you to be nimble and move and adjust to consumer behavior changes. So this is really, really exciting, because ultimately you're going to be able to kind of anticipate change and know how to jump in and adjust levers so that you can actually move forward and learn through the change and adapt quickly to what your consumer wants you to be, which is very important. So in today's training, I want to basically introduce that framework to you, and we're going to talk specifically about one of the 7 modules here today. And it basically outlines a consumer-driven approach. And we'll be able to also look at a couple of specific examples that I'll be training around in that specific module that I'll be covering. So with that, I guess I'd like to just jump right into the training, but I just want to invite you to realize that, yes, we are in a pandemic and a recession. Here we are. We have to kind of ride this out, and we have to continue to make the best of it that we can. And I'm going to go into some, I think, best practices around what we can do to, I think, strengthen the relationship that we have with our consumers during this really trying time. If you have been in the unfortunate position to have to kind of go dark and retract in your marketing right now, listen to what you're about to hear today and make some decisions to change that, because your consumer needs to hear from you. And I also just want to invite all of us to try and up-level and modernize in the face of what we're looking at as a crisis. We have no choice right now but to change, so why not up-level and modernize? We have to change anyway. And that's what the Academy is here to provide you with, is a way to do that. Okay. Let's drop into the training. I'm super excited. So the first thing I want to cover, and there are 3 sections of training. The first one is an approach that we call reconsidering and reframing. So the first few modules, this gives a very 30,000-foot summary of kind of what those are. And essentially when you're in the Academy and we're going through these modules together every week, you'll have training, you'll have Q&A time, there will be office hours. We're going to really be workshopping this so that you'll be able to actually take what you're learning and apply it to your brand right away. So specialty brands, as I said, have founding distribution channels. And at Verde, we've kind of divided these into 2 camps. We have the legacy wholesale brands, and we also have direct first startups. And pre-COVID, so end of last year, first quarter of 2020, we definitely saw some trends happening, and I was reporting on those on Channel Mastery and on Verde's content at the blog, where we were seeing that people were getting tired of being on their devices. The average adult, I think, was spending upwards of 5.5, 6 hours on their devices a day. And people were getting really tired of that, and they were really starting to crave in-person time, in person at retail, in person at events. We were really wanting that. And it's just so ironic to me that we all had to go into like self-isolation and shelter in place. Think about the demand that this is building. I mean, we were already pretty tired of being in that position. It was, kind of the start of winter when all of this hit. We had to go through winter in our houses, sheltering in place. And when things start to transact again, people are going to be, I think, just jumping at the chance to get out of their houses and commingle with humans again. It's going to be amazing. And I think demand's going to ramp right back up. But we're here to talk about reconsidering and reframing. So again, if you are a legacy wholesale brand or a direct first brand, chances are at the end of 2019 or the beginning of 2020, you are starting to consider adding in, or we're already adding in-person places for you to serve at retail or be at events. You also were probably bolstering your digital presence if you were a traditional legacy wholesale brand. So like there already was a melding of channels happening. Obviously 3 years in to the apocalypse, people have been evolving for sure and testing and learning and adjusting. So that was definitely happening. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to look at the history of your brand, where your founding channel is, and we're going to kind of overlay the COVID-19 situation that we're in and the recession, and essentially evaluate where our consumer is. And this is going to be a very in-depth process. So we think it's really important to understand the foundational channel, the consumer that you're serving, and also the history of your brand. So it's just really important to look at that. For example, one of the reasons why is for legacy wholesale brands, it can be really common to have an 18-month product launch cycle. So product would be conceptualized, pre-orders are taken to ensure it can be built in the factory, and then we proceed to do a trade launch at a trade show historically, right? And fire and rep shows are right along with it there. And then from there, the product season launches at a sales meeting. We go to the trade show and do the launch. And more often than not, 6 months later, the product's delivered to a wholesale or retailer, right? And then that's kind of in the historical perspective where a lot of the consumer interface happens. There are probably a lot of channels at play delivering content or selling products online, but pre-COVID, 90% of sales from the wholesale channel for these legacy brands, that's kind of what we were looking at. And that's across all retail, not just in our specialty markets. So it was really, it's been a very consistent statistic that consumers may research something widely online. And and interface and share and be engaged with brands. But when it comes down to actually like buying and going and getting the product, 90% of the sales were happening in brick and mortar. And again, that's across all different categories of retail, not just our markets. So COVID-19 shelter in place mandates obviously devastated physical retail in most categories. I mean, there were obviously some categories that were still considered essential business, such as bike. But I'll quote Rich Hill here, who is the revered president of the Grassroots Outdoor Alliance. We love Rich. He's been a huge friend of the Channel Mastery podcast over the years. But he noted that April 2020 sales, the Grassroots Outdoor Alliance is projecting independently owned specialty outdoor retailers comprising the group will be about negative 70% year over year. So obviously we are experiencing just a huge hit at retail. And I do think that it will evolve. And I agree with a lot of the experts, it will come back because again, people are going to be just absolutely wanting to have interface time with other people. And there are ways that you can prepare your retail entity or your brand to really shine and gather a lot of steam and create traction when that does happen. And that's one of the things that you'll learn in the academy. So a strong reframing is needed to not only backfill what's going to be lost in that wholesale channel for a legacy wholesale brand, but also we have to kind of look at new revenue goals, and we have to reframe where our consumer is going to be, because our consumer right now through COVID is tethered to their browser. And there are, as I've been talking about in the webinars I've been doing weekly, the consumer is most definitely not going to give up being tethered to their browser. They're going to spend time considering, is it worth me leaving to go do this in person? They're going to want one-stop trips. They're going to continue to do buy online, pick up in store. I just read a headline today in Modern Retail that made a ton of sense. The story was great. And we'll have a post on verdepr.com's blog, as well as at channelmastery.com that will have notes from this webinar presentation, so you can have the citations and you can research this yourself. But ultimately, curbside pickup is going to be the key to retail recovery. That is an unequivocal fact. So, we're going to be discussing great ways to like retain brand new customers who are learning about, through curbside pickup, et cetera. How do we get them to enroll with our shops or enroll with our brand? We're going to be covering that as well. Okay, so that covers kind of the legacy first brands, right? They're wholesale driven, have been for a super long time. We're seeing retail take it in the shorts right now. They're obviously going to need to make up lost revenue in different channels, and they're going to have to really study where their consumer is, okay? And there's an in-depth process that we go through as well that I'll get into a little bit later here, more top line, but we do also talk a lot about how to know exactly who you're serving and how your brand can serve them in a completely unique way that no other brand can. Okay. And the second part of this, I wanted to talk about direct first brands. So direct first brands typically have many more launches throughout the year. And that is a key strategy to build audiences. So that's a little page from the playbook that we definitely get into a lot in the academy. Direct first brands have to build an audience before selling. We like to say at Verde, they have to have a pond to go fishing in, right? Consumers want their favorite brands to be where they are, and more direct first brands obviously are in a great spot right now because the consumer is tethered to their browser, as we've been saying. But ultimately, they're going to have to go back out and discover different ways to be exceptional to their end consumer outside of just being online. So right now, I think, yes, the consumer is there, but the direct first brand is going to have to see, okay, I know how to do this. I know how to build an audience. I know how to really consider lifetime value of a customer, right? And how am I going to extend that into in-person events when they come back online? How can I take what I've learned and what I've gained in terms of loyalty from these people and how I've served them through COVID and the recession, and roll that into a more multi-channel, diversified channel strategy? And so ultimately, we're going to be working with both groups and helping them cross-train. So for example, a wholesale legacy brand can learn about audience growth and having their own pond to fish in, right? Because ultimately, and I'll say this a few times in the training here today, the consumer does not see the channel. They just want you to be there when they want you there, and they want to be able to transact through the channel that they want to transact through. So we're going to put these groups together in the academy and have them cross-train together. It's going to be amazing. There will be a lot of learnings, and then we're going to basically customize the blueprint for each of them around who they serve, how they serve them, the ideal channel mix, etc. So we have a whole formula that we map out that you can use again and again as your consumer continues to change. All right. So to wrap up on direct first brands in terms of like the reframe and reconsideration phase, which is the foundation of the academy, basically we're seeing that because e-commerce is up, it doesn't mean business confidence is up or spending is necessarily up. So while we do have direct first brands probably more in the pole position today in terms of like being right where the consumer needs them to be, we don't necessarily have a lot of spending happening. And both are critical considerations. And it points back to, again, where is the consumer and how are they evolving through this disruptive time? And every single week, we're going to be looking at headlines and consumer behavior and matching it to the formula that we're building and enabling our students to see exactly how to evolve as they're obtaining this new information. So it's going to be very dynamic and very immersive, and I'm super excited about it. Okay, so we kind of see it as two ends of the specialty brand pendulum. We see the wholesale legacy brands and we see the direct brands over here. And what ties them together is the relationship with the customer or the shopper, right? Just like any relationship, you really have to understand who it is you're dating. You have to have empathy for the person. And that's where we get into the behavioral studying and changing and responding to that every single week. This is our target consumer, and this North Star drives everything that we do, no matter what side of the pendulum you're on. This is a different approach to how your brand was founded. You were in a primary channel when you were founded, and it's just not natural sometimes to evolve past that. It's hard to think like, well, why would I change from doing what's worked for so long? I really want to protect the revenue that's come from that. Well, now we kind of have to change because the grenade has rolled into the living room and blown it all up. And we need to essentially get super nimble. I mean, that's probably the most overused word in the universe right now. But a lot of brand leaders are not in an environment in their organizations where they are allowed to be nimble. And so the other thing that I'm very proud about the Academy is how we enable people to be more nimble in their brand by earning a leadership role within the organization to take on the ownership, if you will, or advocate for that consumer. And we're going to get more into that, which is one of the things I'm most excited about. Okay. So to wrap that up, for our specialty brands to survive and thrive through the pandemic and the recession, we have to do one thing really, really well. And if you're not doing this today, you need to start doing it today. We have to remain top of mind to our target consumers. As I said earlier in the introduction, some brands have been forced to go dark during the pandemic, and that absolutely has to stop. You will not have a pond to fish in if you have to be going dark right now. It's that simple. And if this isn't your season, it doesn't matter. You still have people on the other side of your email list or the other side of your social media or people that follow your brand and love your brand, and you have to be there for them right now. It requires a long view. I love this example that I just found from Nike. And again, all the links will be on the verdepr.com blog as well as Channel Mastery after this webinar, and we'll be also emailing participants the notes. But Nike has gone all in on consumer experience through the pandemic, through their apps. They've definitely pivoted away from transactional and more towards serving their consumer. And that's something that we've talked about every week, sometimes multiple times a week on different webinars across our communities, is the importance of not being transactional right now and instead serving your end consumer. So the way that Nike has done that is they have provided as much free experience as possible to support their consumer as they live through and adjust to COVID-19. They've done it through online workouts primarily. And as they're focusing on serving and not transacting, they have definitely seen that consumers are showing interest in product. So slowly but surely, just this past week, they're starting to see consumers are now interested in learning about more Nike product. But Nike as a brand has been focused on, quote, obsessing over the consumer journey across the board. And I think that is something for all of us to learn about. We are well aware that most of us are not in a position of Nike. Okay. But I always like to hold up certain brands who I think do a great job with multi-channel marketing, with basically making it seamless for a consumer to interface with their brand. They don't even know if they're online or offline because it's such a consistent experience. And they just feel like they're at the center of the brand's attention all the time. The consumer does. And Nike, I think, does a great job. So the takeaways from the research coupled with market fluency that we have in our specialty markets at Verde and the aptitude and love that we have for brand narrative storytelling really shape the framework of the Academy in terms of how we're like talking about this foundational pillar in step one. With us, you will be immersing yourself in real-time trends, as I said, and understand how your target consumer is factoring into the market changes that are happening today. And we'll train you how to show up for and serve your consumer as they evolve through this crisis and beyond. And you will develop through this process of working together with us for 2 months, you will develop a muscle inside of you, a habit that will enable you to be in tune with your consumer. It's actually a really special place to be as a brand marketer. And when you develop that and start flexing that muscle, your organization is going to just find your insights so valuable in terms of like how you are being able to report back to them on how your consumers responding to your offer, meaning your content or how you're serving them right now. So it might seem counterintuitive to not be transactional during a time when a lot of us within our brands are financially challenged. We all need sales to keep the lights on, but trust me, you want to serve first right now. It will pay off hugely in the long run. I think providing an experience that shows your consumer that you just totally get them will make them identify with you. You will earn their trust. They will connect with you. And I think one of the most important ways to do that, which gets us to step 2, is showing how your brand is living its ethics in light of the pandemic. So let's pop over to the next step, which is show up in a human way and serve. This is so foundational to who we are at Verde. And it also has shaped so much of the content that we've put out for Channel Mastery as well. In specialty, relationships rule, and the more human you can be, the better. So Edelman's March 2020 special edition survey of their trust barometer clearly outlines that COVID-19 and now the recession has kicked off an active consideration phase for consumers. This is driven by 2 key behaviors that we're seeing. Number 1 is essentially consumers are aligning with brands that mirror their ethics and that are making change happen that they used to look to government to make happen, or other institutions. And ultimately, being in a shelter-in-place situation, when they see brands stepping up and like giving back and playing their part, they align so emotionally with those brands because they can't do it themselves. And so they're rooting for these brands to do the right thing for them. And that just makes them crazy, fanatical, loyal. So that's one of the main reasons, if your brand is playing its part right now, that you humbly want to tell that story across the key channels that will engage you with your consumer. Again, you don't want to beat them over the head with it. You want to be humble as if you're talking to a friend. But at the same time, it is important that they know what you're doing. So subtle ways to do that will definitely be discussed. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later here today. But the second point is consumers have zero tolerance for any friction within their entire consumer decision journey these days, from discovery to research to conversion. So we're not going to get so into number 2 today. We're going to stick with number 1 just to save time, but know that we definitely will be discussing the friction issue in the Academy in depth. It's super important. In fact, we are seeing now that consumers who we thought were just loyal to us because they loved our brand, that loyalty is not quite as deep. as it used to pre-COVID and pre-recession. And a large part of the reason is, they're completely intolerant of friction today. But again, we're not going to go into that one so much in depth. We're going to really stick to consumers aligning with the brands that mirror their ethics. Again, going back to the Edelman Trust Barometer survey issued in late March 2020, consumers today are really feeling loyal for the brands who are choosing to be great corporate citizens, and they have zero tolerance for brands that are not. In fact, they're taking issue with them in public on social media, which is definitely not where you want your brand to be. Most of the brands in our specialty markets, I think, they lead with their heart, and they're doing great things. Obviously, we just did a big special series of Channel Mastery podcasts on outdoor companies doing incredible things to give back through personal protective equipment manufacturing pivots. Check all of that out at channelmastery.com. But the brands that are doing their part right now are in an interesting position, because ultimately, they're doing this, and some of them want to be humble about it, and they're almost afraid to tell their story. But keep in mind that your target consumer is a human being, and human beings are hardwired for story. And that is especially true in a crisis. And I have Brené Brown to thank for that. I was listening to her book over the weekend while I was on a mountain bike ride. And that was something that she actually uncovered in her research. She's also a very renowned author and speaker on the topic of vulnerability. But yes, humans need story in crisis more than ever. Okay. So it's actually really, really important to figure out how to humbly share your story and show your story, show the action your brand is taking around how you're playing your part during COVID-19 and also the recession. I think that supporting the cause in the story and the work that the brand is doing is a natural place to be a humble storyteller. We go into depth in story framework, and it's a really cool process that we take the student through. It's something you can use again and again in big projects and small projects. It's a really cool approach that we have. But keep in mind that I think it's really, really important to just make sure that if you're investing time with your brand to do the right thing, that you're making it known in a humble way. I wanted to share an example of one of our amazing clients that's doing such a great job with this. We have the honor of working with Tailwind Nutrition. I founded Verde here in Durango. We now have offices in Jackson and Boulder. And we have one of my partners, Lisa Mullen, also lives in Bend. We're hoping to have an office there one day too. But mountain towns, right? And Tailwind has been born and raised in a mountain town as well. So we just have incredible affinity for this brand. And this is a picture that I wanted to share from some coverage that we obtained for Tailwind doing their part during the pandemic. Basically, I thought it was super cool what they were doing. They basically were looking at the frontline healthcare workers like an endurance athlete. The endurance athletes that they serve can be anywhere from a half marathon enthusiast who really identifies as a runner, all the way up to a Leadville 100 mountain bike racer. And Jeff is the founder. Jeff and Jenny Vreerling are the founders of Tailwind. And Jeff actually founded Tailwind because he could not find a product that worked for him in the Leadville 100. And so basically he created this drink mix that has everything you need to get through an event like that. And it actually works. I used it in Leadville last year myself. It's a great product, but they realized quickly that frontline healthcare workers with 12 and 13-hour shifts wearing PPE equipment, sweating, and having to really bust a move to get all of their work done during COVID, they are perfect candidates for this. So they did their own pivot, and instead of creating personal protective equipment, Tailwind used their expertise in nutrition and the benefits of having their own manufacturing facility right here in Southwest Colorado, accessible at the headquarters. And they basically wanted to deliver their ingestible solution for nutrition to the frontline healthcare workers. And they also donated endurance fuel to dozens of hospitals across the country and launched a program in which they matched donations made by their customers. So this is amazing what this brand is doing. It's a little brand, independently family-run brand here in Southwest Colorado that has made a really big impact in a different way, in their own way with their manufacturing pivot. So I invite you to check that out, and we'll definitely share some links in the notes for the webinar so you can see exactly how Tailwind has framed this storytelling in a humble way across their channels and also through the work that we've done from a brand communication standpoint. So in the book Marketing Rebellion, The Most Human Company Wins, author Mark Schaefer defines success as the brand with the most compelling story that their people can relate with. Okay. And I'll definitely put the link in. Mark is a staff favorite here at Verde. We love the work that he does, but he ultimately advises that you can really further emotional connection by having incredible brand story that really, really resonates with a very niche and specific target consumer. And this is so important to the middle part of our course at the Academy. Ultimately, with search engines, you have the luxury of being incredibly targeted today. So the marketing adage that we've heard for years and years, when you try and be remarkable to everyone, you're remarkable to no one, couldn't be more true than it is today with search engines. You really do have to niche till it hurts. And we have a process to guide our students through for that as well. It really helps your brand stay top of mind to just the right consumer. And we also coach people who really have a hard time letting go of being remarkable to everybody. But trust me, that is one of the most important things you can do as a specialty brand. And keep in mind that the most human company basically means that it's not like a one and done. There's a beginning, middle, and an end to storytelling. And that loop has to keep going and keep going. And that's basically how you stay nurturing your target consumer. They're actively watching your brand's actions right now through the pandemic and the recession. And how you communicate your mission, vision, and values is really important. You want to have that easily discoverable on your own platforms that you have. But what's more important is the action that you're taking to really reinforce that, and how you share that with them and make it shareable by them. So people are literally looking to brands, especially specialty brands, to self-identify with today. Back in September of 2019, we did a podcast on this. Essentially, it was about the fall of institutions, meaning like institutions like government, religion, etc., are falling by the wayside and being replaced by just independent upstart surges all over the place. Like, one of the things we love about gravel cycling here at Verde is the fact that it is just an independent, relationship driven, amazing community that just refuses to be packaged by any sort of cycling institution. It's pretty awesome, actually. But that's just one micro example of something that's happening all over. And COVID-19 and the recession is only going to exacerbate that. So as we built out our weekly content for COVID, we saw a distinct consumer behavior shift about 3 weeks into the crisis pandemic. And it was really cool because we were covering every week. And every week we would see, oh, look, we saw a change. And then we would look, and sure enough, there were some things being reported in broader business and retail and brands. But what we saw in our specialty microcosm was really very distinct for us to see. So I think the first couple of weeks we were like hiding in our basements with like storage blankets or anything we could find, like covering us and just hiding from all of the uncertainty that was out there with this pandemic. As time ticked by, about 3 weeks in, we started to see that people and also our brands were starting to kind of look around and think, okay, here I am. How can I help? Right. And so we started to see people really come together and try and help each other. And they realized that there wasn't a lot that they could do except support the brands that were doing a great job helping other people. So a lot of that had to do with personal protective equipment, pivoting your brand, giving back, and letting your consumers know about this because they wanted so badly to see this action happening and they couldn't do it. And so they aligned even more closely emotionally with their favorite brands that were doing that. And the Edelman brand survey that I referenced really explains why. Again, around this fall of institutions, it's very important. I'll put links to the September 19th episode that we did. I remember it like it was yesterday because it's so, so important for specialty brands. And it's even more important now that we're going through the pandemic and recession. People just have lost faith in their governments. This is something that Edelman's survey reports. We are not getting into politics here. I'm just reporting the facts. But people want businesses and brands that they love to make the change that they want to see that their governments aren't making. Okay. Just know this, consumers will vote with their dollars more than they ever have before, going through this recession, pandemic, and getting beyond it as well. They will not forget. Okay. So what we're going to train you to do in the academy is create this story in a genuine way. That's always our approach. We have to be truthful. We have to be transparent. And we also want to train and work with our students to enable them to take forward this corporate citizenship. Once we get through and beyond COVID and the recession, you really still need to retain that ethic alignment with your target consumer. And we're actually going to teach you how to bridge that forward. It's one of the most important parts of the academy, and something I'm very, very proud of, because at Verde, it's a really important part of who we are. We love to help specialty brands use their brand reach and use their brands as vehicles for positive change. Nothing gets us out of bed and more excited to go to work than that. So we want you and the work that you're doing to pivot your brand and play your part to be a differentiator for you going forward in your cause marketing. And we're going to train you to get from that point over to here, which is a cause marketing strategy that you inform month over month going forward. It's a really, really important part to have as a specialty brand. And we think that it's going to be just as important as product innovation going forward in terms of how you're differentiated to your consumer. Mark my words. Very happy that we have built in guidance and resource specifically on this point. And this is an area of expertise for Verde. We have done corporate social responsibility reporting for many, many brands in our 20 years. It is a core competency of ours, and we see this as a huge way for us to give back, because we can create the ability by helping our students create this to enable them to use their brand to impact positively going forward. And that is really important to who we are. So with that, I'm going to move on to the third and final step, which is going to consumer. And I know I've been going a little long here, so I'm going to motor along. So direct to consumer is definitely needing to be recast and redefined. And that's ultimately what I think the core competency of the academy is. It's just so much more than selling from your website or evolving your direct first strategy. It is 100% about an orchestrated experience, okay? And it has to be organization-wide. So we want to inspire our students never to look at go-to-market the same way ever again. We want them to fully get the importance of going to the consumer and give them the confidence to know how to do it again and again. So I think that that is going to be something that will be just a legacy mark of the academy, and is something that is so, so important for us to help brands do during this time. And we will be fluid, and we will work with each other to change and evolve through this together. But ultimately, the framework is a vehicle that will work for change going forward, no matter how drastic the change is. And we teach you how to customize the situation to the framework and move through the change, which I think is really, really important. I wanted to share 3 quick examples, and keep in mind too, we are getting some questions because we're going a little long today. It's already an hour and 18 minutes into the presentation, but we are going to do questions in a live Facebook and YouTube later this week. So keep that in mind. Keep an eye on our channels. It'll probably be on Thursday. Happy to do a couple if I get more questions, but just know that we'll keep all the questions and be sure we answer them in the next couple of days. So the first company I wanted to point out that is just doing a great job with multi-channel is Glossier. And it's not because I love makeup, because I do not love makeup. But I love Glossier because they just busted onto the scene and completely took a consumer-first approach that just disrupted the legacy cosmetics industry. So they only have 2 physical stores. And their direct-to-consumer approach, basically they own their entire sales funnel, which I love. And that's something that we'll dive into in depth in the academy, is understanding like why that worked for this brand. I love this brand, so we definitely study them a lot. They distribute their products independent of resellers or department stores. And that means that 1/3 of Glossier is digital, and they engage exclusively with their customers on social media and other digital platforms. And our module of the Academy, I think it's module 2, will teach the importance of surveying the brand brand fan regularly, and how to do that, how to build a process around it. That's critically important. How to have a clear understanding of exactly who your brand is serving and how only your brand can serve them in a unique way, and to reconsider how your brand is deploying social media. This is important because social media is definitely making a resurgence and an evolution at the same time. I think that the way that it is used is far more proactive and shaping of a consumer perception of a brand that it has been in the past 18 months. And I'm very excited to dive into our training on this, and we have special experts to feature here as well. Social media has always offered a way for customers to have a two-way relationship with a brand. It's always been a hub for narrative-driven storytelling, and I think that the evolution that we're seeing and the way we're going to approach this in the Academy is going to be a game changer for our students. So I'm super excited about that. We'll also drop in on the importance of building awareness through paid and organic digital strategies. Of course, that is super important. I wanted to kind of pivot from an upstart direct first brand like Glossier to more of a legacy brand. And I'm going to go ahead and skip forward to, because of time, I'm going to skip forward to an actual brand in our spaces, SRAM. So trade launches, I'm sure there are a lot of you watching right now that have experienced a lot of trade launches. Basically, when a product is introduced a full season before they're shipped to retail. This does not at all match up with consumer expectations today, like at all. That was true even pre-COVID. It is definitely true going forward. Consumers, and you and I are consumers when we're not at our day jobs, right? We have been trained and now really like to be able to buy what we read about and what we see on YouTube when we feel like it, not 6 months or 3 months or whatever from now. And more we're seeing reporters report live on launches, whether they're from consumer events or even trade shows. We're not sure what's going to happen with trade shows, of course. But if a consumer sees a new product from a favorite specialty brand online, they're going to want to buy it when they want to buy it. And so you can't do a trade launch really anymore, because transparency wise, the consumer is going to hear about the product and they're going to want to buy the product. So I wanted to feature SRAM as an exceptional company that has figured out a way around this in a category that really makes it difficult to do that. Okay. So it's just so happens that today, May 12th, which is a Tuesday, I think that there's at some point in the next few days, there will be another live example of an exceptional SRAM brand launch. I don't know what the details are, but I have heard rumors that something is happening over there. But this case study goes back to a year ago. I did an entire episode on a launch that SRAM did, episode 82, and the links will be in the notes for this webinar. On the Channel Mastery podcast, I interviewed Kate Powlison, who's the road brand manager at SRAM and was also our manager when our agency worked with People for Bikes. She's just a fantastic leader. So the bike market is evolving fast. Obviously, we've seen that just go crazy with COVID-19. Bikes are flying out the door. It's an incredible time. But again, this launch looks back to a year ago. I consider this SRAM launch to be one of the landmark moments of evolution in outdoor active lifestyle with multi-channel. Period, the end. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it now, and know that this is a case study that we really dissect, and there hopefully will be a brand new one from SRAM that we'll get to dissect even more so in our group in the Academy. But this has to do with the SRAM Red ETAP Access Group. So Kate and her team at SRAM successfully launched a new family of very technical components for bikes. And they did an integrated consumer-centric launch like none I'd ever seen in my 20 years with Verde, or even my 10 years prior to that as a journalist. So SRAM used to do it this way. They used to design and produce a component group, work with a handful of brands to launch it, unveil the product at a trade show, usually once a year at either Interbike and Eurobike, and then launch the product to retail the following season, 4 to 6 months later, sometimes more if there were final production issues from a trade show, right? The entire process would take between 12 to 18 months. And with the Access launch, they designed the component group, They designed a direct-to-consumer launch, multi-channel at the same time, working with the time frame of the launch, so media, samples, brands, etc. They worked with stakeholders and orchestrated a launch with athletes, influencers, bike brands. Everybody got the product the same day as the consumer did. Retailers, media, ambassadors, athletes, brands, and the consumer, all on the same day. Now that was a feat, and SRAM sent it. It took a ton of planning, vision, and orchestration, and it took a president from a different industry, to be frank, who did not realize that such a launch was historically impossible, because it really was possible. The team showed us. So I think that was an incredibly successful launch of a legacy wholesale brand going direct to consumer through tight orchestration, a lot of planning, exceptional communication. It was a global multi-channel launch. So hats off to SRAM. And I love Kate's quote, "If our product is innovative and modern and writer first, we decided we wanted to launch that way too." Awesome. So we're going to wrap it up here. I really appreciate all of your time today. What the Academy teaches is going to enable you to pivot and be nimble. And we've all just learned how important that is, and it's going to continue to be important. Just as important, the Academy will teach you as a marketer how to step into a leadership role within your organization. This is really important, very close to my heart. We teach you how to listen and manage how your consumer is responding to what your brand is offering. And we also basically will equip you to report back to your leadership team as well. So I also wanted to let you know that the Academy is built to help you solve your consumers' problems, okay? And that is what we're in business to do today. We're here to solve problems. And ultimately, the pandemic and the recession have created a whole new set of problems that we all have to navigate through together. We've been building the Academy for over a year at Verde, and we have quickly pivoted and updated all of the content to support you evolving your brand through COVID and through the recession. You will be set up with a blueprint and a structure and a framework to move through that you can custom tailor to your brand needs, to the growth needs of your organization. And one of the most important facets of this is how the Academy will equip you as the brand leader to become the advocate for the consumer inside of your brand. That is a much needed position that you have been the chosen one. It is up to you as the brand leader to take that role on and to report into your leadership peers on exactly how things are going with your most important stakeholder, and that is your consumer. So we see this as the perfect time to invest in yourself and also to up-level your marketing strategies and to put your consumer first. When it all comes together, more people want to join your brand community. You have a bigger pond to fish in, and so do all your channel partners. So as your audience grows and becomes more endeared to your brand, all of your channels will benefit. So I just wanted to, basically make the offer to you to join the Academy and evolve your brand with me and the Verde team. We are super excited about this. I will be teaching the Academy, and it will be very hands-on, and I will be in the community. We have a closed Facebook group. All the details for the course are available at channelmastery.com/course. And we have several guest experts that will also be joining us throughout the course as well, throughout the 2 months. And so keep in mind today, I offered you a glimpse into just one of the 7 modules. So I think I know why you're here. You signed up today because you want your business to not only survive the pandemic and the recession, you want your business to thrive going through this. Your customer is evolving fast, and your brand has to modernize to be positioned to serve that consumer. And you're also here because you feel the weight of the responsibility along with the excitement of the opportunity of stepping into a peer level leadership role within your specialty brand. You are the perfect leader to do that, and we want to set you up to do that. And you are ready, and that's why you're here. So we want to invite you to join the Multi-Channel Marketing Academy. And here are just some details. Again, all of this information lives at channelmastery.com/course. You can also find it at verdepr.com. And we just invite you to join the Multi-Channel Marketing Academy today. We're really excited about this launch. We've been working a long time to get to this point, including tripling down on working hard to be here to serve with our content and to adjust our approach and to update the content to help people going through the pandemic and the recession and to identify the options for traction and opportunity around it. All right. I have to go ahead and announce our free course winners. Morgan Newland from Ultimate Direction, love that brand. Jake Largess with Darn Tough. Simon Murray, I'm not sure what brand you're with, Simon, but congratulations. Ryan Barnes and Emma Phelps. We are very excited to award all 5 of these incredible folks with a free enrollment into the Multi-Channel Marketing Academy. And thank you to everybody who tried to win. So we will be getting in touch with you with more information on that probably later today. Super excited. All right, everybody, this is the call to action. Enroll today, investing yourself, investing your brand. We are here to support business and brand leaders during these uncertain times. We are here to help you find the opportunity lurking in this. It's definitely there. The Multi-Channel Marketing Academy will only be offered at this price one time, and that is right now. It's $497. Normally, we will be selling this course, this 2-month course opportunity for $1997, but we made it $497 because obviously we're going through a pandemic and recession. We want to make this something that everybody can join if they're interested. And please know, I will be your teacher, and you will have a great group of people around you getting you through this. You're also going to really bolster your network with other people who are just completely obsessed with getting through this in fine form. So super excited. And I think I have gone a little bit over. It's 12:33 Mountain Time. I so appreciate your time. This is a dream come true for us. So thank you so much for being on the webinar today. This is something that we've been striving for a long time, and we're just so proud to launch it. And we really hope you'll join us in the Academy. Thank you so, so much. And we will be doing some fun live streams later this week to answer your questions. And for those of you who do enroll, the Facebook group is closed, meaning it'll be a private Facebook group. We're opening that up to people who enroll, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So know that if you choose to buy today, we're going to put you right in that Facebook group, and we're going to get going on some pre-work for you. All right. Thank you so much. It's been an incredible honor to be here with you today. And I hope to see you in the Academy. Thanks.